Hi, I am Josias Young. Who am I? I'll show ya. Grandma and Grandpa Manwaring, Great Grandma and Grandpa Bates, Great Great Grandma and Grandpa Bates, Great 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 Grandma and Grandpa Butler, Great 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 Grandma and Grandpa Butler. Where are we now? Great 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 something. Grandma and Grandpa Young. That's me right there, Josiah Richard Young. Can you tell? That's who I am. And let me show you where I live. We live across the ocean, kind of in kind of Britain, kind of Europe. Let's get a little closer here. Oh, still can't see it. Let's get a little closer. Still can't see it. Let's get a little closer. Oh, there we go. That's where I live. Those are called the Channel Islands. I live on Guernsey. Guernsey belongs to England. Guernsey belongs up here to England. And Jersey belongs to France. This is France down here. That's where I live. And the Channel Islands, they got a lot of ships because the islands are not very big, and we do a lot of shipping here. And so we got a lot of ships, and we live on this island. And I was a cabinet maker. I work with wood a lot. And ships have a lot of cabinets, so I had a pretty good job. I was not married yet, but I had met a girl, and so I live on Guernsey, right? And way across the water there, it's 16 miles. On the other side, there's the other island. You see it way over there? That's Jersey. And I had met a girl from there, and her name was Elizabeth Esther Kennevet. And she was French. And both of our families had lived on these islands a long time. And I really liked Elizabeth, and it's a long way to get across that little stretch. It doesn't look very far on the map, I know, but I was in love, and so it wasn't too hard to, just get across there. Some of the ships would go there, and I would work on them, and I got to see quite a bit of her, and we really liked each other, and so we got married. And we lived on Jersey. That's her island. So we lived on Jersey. There's Guernsey. We moved over to Jersey, and we had 3 little kids about this time. And life for us would have probably gone on a lot the way it had gone for many of our ancestors for many generations. But guess what happened? There was some missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And we said, what? What's that? And they talked to us about the Book of Mormon and about Joseph Smith. And it wasn't even that long ago. I found out I'm older than the church is. I was about 11 when the church was organized by Joseph Smith. And now I'm grown up, but it wasn't that long ago that this church was organized, and we liked their message. We liked what they taught. And we decided, well, about this time we moved back to Guernsey, to my island, with our 3 kids, and we decided to join this church, and we decided to go to America. And this had been a few years in here, and we had 6 kids by this time on our little island of Guernsey. There's our 6 kids, and our friends were not interested, and our parents and our family were not interested. They weren't interested. And so we took our 6 kids. Our oldest was about 10, and our youngest was almost a year, and we went to America. And we got over to America, and we started going across the plains, and you take a little old covered wagon across the plains, and boy, that was a trek. We didn't have a whole lot of food, and so it was nice. I mean, there were some animals out there. You could go hunting if you had a gun and get some more meat, and we would share the meat that we got, and And mosquitoes were so bad. The flies were bad, and when it got hot during the day, and the mosquitoes were so bad in some places at night that, I mean, first off, our kids would they'd sleep together to stay warm, and we'd give them some blankets, and the mosquitoes were so bad they'd pull the blankets over their heads so they could sleep and not get bit by mosquitoes all night long. And that worked out. And our little baby at the time, she learned how to walk by when we parked. We weren't moving at this time, but she learned how to walk by holding on to those wagon wheels, and she'd pull herself up. I'm walking. And she'd walk back and forth with those wagon wheels when the wagon was stopped. And she learned how to walk when we were crossing the plains, and that worked out great. And we made it to Utah, and we were so glad. And we settled in Provo. You ever been to Provo? And it was just a little town. It was very nice and quiet. But what happened was some of the people in this church, some Mormons, would practice polygamy. And the United States government heard about that and said, "You can't do that." I didn't do it myself, but some of our neighbors did, and the prophet told us to. That was okay. But the United States government said, "You can't do polygamy. You can't do that." And they sent an army out to us. This is Johnson's army. And they were going to make us stop doing all this stuff and tell us what to do. And it was interesting when they got out here and they saw that we're kind of nice. We're not doing a whole bunch of stuff wrong. And the army didn't have a whole lot to do out here. But I saw an opportunity, and we decided to move to where the army is stationed in Fairfield, Utah. So the army came out here, and they lived here for a little while because they had to keep an eye on these crazy people, Mormons. But they found out we weren't that crazy. We were okay, and eventually they just left again. We didn't have any problems. But while they were here, we decided to move down to Fairfield where they were, and anytime, government does something this was just kind of a silly endeavor, kind of expensive, but we went down and kind of lived with them, and we made quite a bit of money because they didn't have anything to do, and they needed, I could work with wood, and I could make stuff for them, and it was a little rowdy living with an army, but we did all right. We did pretty well. That's called making the government work for you. Hey, we had a pretty good life down there. And when the army left, a lot of our neighbors left, but we stayed there in Fairfield, Utah, where that army was. And we had a good life down there. And we ended up with 14 kids. 14 kids. My goodness. That's a lot. So our oldest is William, and then Elizabeth, Susanna, Louisa Sarah. She is your ancestor also. She married Edwin Butler. I think you have met their son. Louisa Sarah. We had a little baby named Brigham Joseph Young, and he died when he was just a baby. We will see him again. And then we had a Josias Jr. Then we had Andrew. Then we had a little baby Mariah, and she also died when she was just a little baby. We will see her again. And so then we had Maria, and then Charlotte, and then Eliza, and then Annie, and then Frederick, and then George. And we were getting a little older by this time, and we are so happy to be here in Utah, my wife and I, and be here with the saints. And these are all of our kids and their spouses, their husbands and their wives, and that's our whole family. And we were so happy to have joined the church and to come to Utah.